shoulders today. We're in the same phase, the third evolutionary phase. I'm sorry. Well, we're gonna talk about shoulders, like pain in the shoulder, and what this has to do with a personal story. Well, first of all, we have to see, like, what are the shoulders for? What function have shoulders? A long time the shoulders had, actually. Well, if you see the different evolutionary states of a human being, like when we were, the first Homo sapiens. Well, at that time, like, we lived in the mountains, we were hunters, and the man of the family, like, his task was hunting and providing for the cave. Like in the cave, the man had his, let's say, wife, I don't know, wife or at least partner, and his children. So the first responsibility of the man was to hunt. That relates to the idea of the provider. That till today is mainly one of the two most important functions of man and in a family. In a family and the collective, I mean the society. Like today, the equivalent to hunting is to go out there and work, do something useful and sell it to the rest of the society. Well, at that time it was hunting. This is to see what the functions of the shoulders are archetypically. And let's say you hunt a deer, for instance, or a pig or wild pig or something. How would this man that lives in the caves carry what he hunted, this animal, to the cave? Where would he do that? How would he? What would be the means of transport? Would you believe me if I said shoulders? So the shoulder is connected to the responsibility of man carrying what he hunted, let's say the food, to the cave. So if you have a shoulder pain, the first thing you need to see is what is your relationship with responsibilities. I mean, the first thing I would take a look at is if I'm living in a state of excess of responsibilities. I have too much responsibilities. It's too much for me. I'm constantly suffering a great amount of effort, I don't know, to provide my family or whatever. Let's say it can be something at work, for instance. Have too much work, excess of responsibilities. This is the yang. So there's a thing of yin and yang that would be, of course, very, well, a bit long to explain here, but let's say that the lack of something is yin and the excess of something is yang. The yin and yang, Chinese concepts, they had no exact translation to English. But let's take it from here, okay? So the first thing, excess. I'm suffering of an excess of responsibilities. Shoulder pain. The other side of the story is I'm suffering of a lack of responsibilities. I'm being not very well seen because of that. I'm being judged because of that. For instance, I'm I had to go through a divorce. I have to give a certain amount of money to my family, like to my ex-wife, on my former wife, and my children. I'm not doing so. For whatever reason, doesn't matter. And I'm being judged for that. By the clan, by the society. How are you not transferring money to your children or to your ex-wife? I'm being judged by my ex-wife. I'm being judged by my children. I'm being judged by, my mother, my parents, my sister, my brother, my neighbors. I'm being judged because this lack of responsibility. So that would be the yin side of the issue. Like, I had patients that had this shoulder pain, and they would go like, well, I don't feel like I have a lot of responsibilities. So my next question is, well, who's judging you in the clan? Like, for instance, I had this guy, a patient of mine. He worked for a factory. He quit it and he started his own business, but it was a very small business, like stamping t-shirts, something like that. And he didn't have that amount of responsibility because he wasn't selling so much. And it was like something he could do it like in his house. He didn't need to settle in a factory or a big place to do that. And he says to me, I know I have this pain in my shoulder, but I don't feel I've got so many responsibilities. And I will go like, okay, what does your family think about that? And he goes, oof. This very, very weird look in his face. And he says, well, my mom says I'm lazy. My mom says I don't work. That I'm not giving enough effort to provide my daughter. He went through a divorce. He had to go through that before. So yeah, like, to be honest with you, he says, I'm being judged by my mom and other members of the family, mainly my mom. Like, in my mom's mind, working means being an employee. If you're not an employee and you've got a registered salary, then you don't work. You're an unemployed person. So, to her eyes, I'm lazy. I don't work. And she's constantly like accusing me of that. So that's the yin. The other one is the yang. Like the yang of this symptom is the yang is the excess of responsibilities. I know. I have 2 families, 4 kids. I need to make money, and I'm not making enough. But I'm dealing with a great effort. But it's never enough. It's never enough, and everyone is like claiming, like asking me for more. I'm totally, I don't know how to say, sobrepasado, we say in Spanish. That's, overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed with all these responsibilities. Like, I'm doing my best. I work, let's say, 12 hours a day, and I don't know. At every time I'm paying bills and bills and more bills from my ex-wife, from my current wife, my 2 children from the first marriage, 2 children from the second marriage. Well, that's about it. Okay. So, shoulders. If you've got a pain in the shoulder, conflict regarding responsibilities on yin or on yang. Okay? Then, if you have another issue like the humerus getting out of the collarbone, like your arm getting out of its place, well, that's another story, and that has to do with protection. A feeling that there's someone I had to protect and I couldn't protect. It can be your children, it can be your wife, your partner, it can be a thing that is very valuable to you. I know, perhaps a house, perhaps a book, a piece of art, something you can protect. I know, I had a Picasso at home, and someday some burglars entered the house and they took the Picasso. And that Picasso was very important for me. So I feel I couldn't protect the house, I couldn't protect the Picasso. So I lost the Picasso. Yeah. It can be a book written by yourself, I don't know. That's like a symbolic child. Yeah? A book, a house. It can be a thing. But the first thing I would take a look at is your children. Your children and your wife. That's the first thing. That's those people that you are, say you've got an obligation there to protect. Then it can be something else, like it can be your mom. Like if your mom is a very old lady and you feel you couldn't protect her in the sense that you weren't there when she fell from the stairs and got some bone broken, well, and you leave that with guilt and whatever, well, that can be a story that explains your arm getting out of the way, getting out of the articulation that connects with the collarbone. Okay? Well, that's it for today. I think I've been as clear as I could. If this resonates within you, you can talk to me. I don't. I know I've got some pain on your shoulders. Sometimes the pain is not like on the shoulder. It goes like back to the neck pain also. It's all this area, like the one that connects with responsibility. So, like, if you've got a neck pain, but also some here, well, I would take a look at that. This responsibility issue. Well, that's everything. That's enough for today. Bye bye.